Yeah, so I think one of the major indicators would be the macro trends of e-commerce GMV versus live commerce GMV as a portion of e-commerce GMV, right? So what we're seeing is in China, you typically see about 30 to 40% of e-commerce GMV being driven by live commerce, especially during the 12/12 sales and stuff like that, right? In Southeast Asia, we see almost like 4 to 5% maximum. But I think in Indonesia particularly is super interesting, right? To give you mentioned TikTok Shop, which is a really great example, right? In TikTok Shop, you have 325 million users in Southeast Asia, and 125 million of them are in Indonesia alone, right? So GMV growth in live commerce particularly has been phenomenal. There are 2 million, if I'm not wrong, 2 million live commerce sellers in Indonesia alone, small, medium businesses. So big growth, right? So I'm going to bring the point back to e-commerce GMV to live commerce GMV, the comparison, right?
Sure.
If there is such a not minuscule, but a relatively small amount of live commerce GMV contributing to e-commerce GMV, right? There's a lot of room for growth. Right, we're not saying it's going to hit the heights of 30 to 40% in China, but even half of that, or a quarter of that, would be pretty significant for the live commerce industry.
One thing that these reports also touched on, Kenneth, is that there is a lot of potential because of the adoption of e-commerce and live streaming in Southeast Asia. But one thing they said that might be a hindrance is the lack of a live streaming infrastructure to support either commerce, either payments, for instance, or supporting live streaming. This is something that they see in countries like the Philippines or Vietnam, where they're primed to do that, but the infrastructure is not there. Can you talk to us about what are those gaps that need to be addressed in terms of live streaming infrastructure so that you can see live streaming take off at an even faster clip in Southeast Asia?
Right, so infrastructure-wise, I mean, it's going to progress, right? There are some gaps in payments and, the recent acquisition of Tokopedia from TikTok, right? And a merger, potential merger, right? That will be a pretty significant step in kind of alleviating these concerns, right? What we do see is not so much infrastructure because it's going to resolve itself with Moore's law, right? After 2 or 3 years' time, not only payments infrastructure, network connectivity as well. In the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, let's say in the Philippines or even Indonesia as well, we serve customers like Bukalapak. We do see very, pronounced lack of quality when it comes to live streams, when you have very high quality live streams with a high need for real-time interactivity, right? So that will resolve itself, I'm sure of that. I think one of the biggest gaps would be the lack of content creation competencies. Right, so the reason I'm saying that is because the profile of a live streamer is very different to a profile of an influencer or a YouTuber per se. You need to be very affable, you need to be super responsive to audiences, right? And that takes a certain kind of personality. It has to be trained, and we haven't actually seen a superstar per se live streamer emerge from these countries, right? We do think that will be kind of the tipping point when you see a really influential live streamer emerge, and that person would be hopefully holding the torch for the rest of the industry. Yeah.